Hey guys, what's up? My name is Debbie. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to continue this crazy trial of Phil Spector's, and I like this duty because I could not remember. I remembered Wall of Sound, but I could not remember specifics of how to describe it. The technique involved creating a dense, layered, and reverberant sound. This is what Phil Spector was famous for. Even with that description, I still can't really grasp what it is, and every time I hear Wall of Sound or talk about Wall of Sound, that one Christmas song gets stuck in my head. The one off that, there's a Christmas album that is entitled Brought to You by Phil Spector. It's like Christmas something brought to you by Phil Spector. And every time I hear Wall of Sound, that one Christmas song gets stuck in my head. I don't even remember. Oh, which one is it? I can't even remember which one it is now. But that is what Phil Spector is famous for. He was married to Ronnie of the Ronettes. Doesn't surprise me. You would. Excuse me. So we are still on Mr. Eyebrows. And we are still on Cross. So AJ, thank you. Because the defense, this is the defense's witness, right? That they took out of order. So AJ is now cross-examining this guy. I forgot why they took him out of order. Was it just a scheduling thing? My head is so into the Karen retrial right now. This is like so on the back burner. Thank you, Judy. I have not sneezed all morning, and I sit down here and it starts. my morning allergy, sinus, whatever, is so unpredictable, y'all. And Travis is always like, "Well, take some cold medicine." No, because then I'll either fall asleep or just feel, cold medicine makes you feel. No, it's just a sneeze. Go away. I know you mean well, but go away. Every time. He does it every time. I've lost my boom, you guys, because when I got the new desk, I was like, there's no good place to put it. But now, if you guys see me doing this, it's because I'm looking around my mic to look at the screen. I need my boom, and I don't know where I put it. And I'm so afraid that I put it in a box somewhere that was trash, and Travis didn't realize it and took it to the dump. Which is such a me thing to do. Boom. My boom. Jill, my boom. Hey, Terry. Hey, Nancy. You heard me. You just did that on purpose to make me laugh. Thank you, Nancy, so much. I can't believe I have members for 2 whole months.
Back on the record, all the parties are present. I don't see Mr. Dixon.
Have it in front of you.
Yes.
There was an indication in your report, or you stated, and I think in your direct examination too, it would have been physically easier for Lana to have shot herself
before StreamYard goes all wiggy. I had 5 tabs open this morning, and I was playing 2 videos at the same time. It didn't buffer. It didn't shut down. It didn't glitch. It didn't anything. I tried to run StreamYard and 1 video at the same time, and it does this. So it's not my computer or my internet, y'all. It's StreamYard. And I know you know this, but I just have to say it because it's so embarrassing to me when StreamYard doesn't behave. And I know it's not my fault. And I know you guys keep telling me that it's not my fault. But I just feel like I have to explain. What's the best day of your life, Nancy? Congratulations.
in the mouth and the temple. And I simply want you to explain that to me. What do you mean by that?
Essentially, she had some restriction, the motion from in her wrist. She had viral of her one. Then in 2000, line hands. So you have to it's easier. And most people who kill themselves or shoot themselves kind of do it easy. And for her, it would be easier to use both hands.
All right. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. Regarding her range of motion, you're aware, are you not, or are you aware of who Karen Luckett is? Luckett, I think.
You're talking about the medical records, how she's a bit improving. Yes.
Correct. Her physical therapist.
Right.
Karen Luckett was her physical therapist. Correct.
Right, and she's improving, and she's getting there.
Right. And although it was a relatively severe, well, not relatively, I think by anybody's standard, it would be severe, correct?
Right, yes.
But you're indicating that she couldn't make the motion that I'm making now.
No, I just said that it would be much more difficult for her, and that it's easier. And most people, when they'll do a thing like that, if they shoot themselves in the mouth, which she did, it's easier to use 2 hands than to use 1 hand.
Okay.
For the record, you had made the equivalent of putting a gun to your temple.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to that particular motion, you don't have there's nothing in the medical records to suggest that she couldn't, I mean, if she wanted to, that she couldn't have moved her wrist in the direction that I'm moving mine. As a matter of fact, the wrist stays relatively stable, correct?
You can stabilize your wrist, yes.
Okay.
So, it's just, I pointed out that it would be easier for her, that's all.
And of course, you're unaware of any medical defect that Mr. Spector had with either one of his hands or wrists?
No.
Yeah. You also indicated in your report that people shooting themselves in the mouth commonly use 2 hands. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. This is back to basic statistics, correct? When you use the word quite commonly, or maybe I should just ask you, what do you mean by quite commonly?
It's not uncommon for them. There are no statistics on this thing. It's just that a few cases, you found a significant number of these people use both hands. It's easier.
Okay, so that was just something that you put in the report because you happen to have it off the top of your head.
I have what?
Happen to have it off the top of your head.
It's my experience.
Okay. So. Again, not based on literature that you've read, but your experience.
Yes.
You also indicated that In this particular case, the muzzle of the weapon was in the mouth, as indicated by the soot and powder in the mouth,
Yes.
and the forceful ejection from the mouth of the caps on her upper front teeth, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, that statement is in fact based on medical science, correct?
And that's based on the observations at the time of what time?
And Doctor, those observations include the observation recovery of soot and powder and unburned powder particles from her palate and throat and mouth area and mucosa, correct?
Yes, sir.
It also is based on scientific observations that there was no, in fact, sooting or stippling on the outside of her mouth,
Yes, sir.
on the outside of her lips as well.
Yes, sir.
It was based on the scientific determination that there was dentin material, and I'm using that in the broadest terminology. I don't know what the actual terminology may be. Tooth material may be a better word. Impacted on the back of the front sight, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these medical and scientific findings led you to agree with the conclusion that in fact the muzzle of the gun was inside the plane of her front teeth.
Yes.
So you did not use any statistics to come to that conclusion. This in fact was based on medical science, correct?
It's based on the observations, yes.
And some of those observations included the fact that the teeth were broken outward and not inward, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would expect if there were teeth broken inward, one performing the autopsy might in fact find those teeth and recover them and make a note of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was not the case here.
Actually, the teeth weren't broken. It was the caps that were broken.
Okay, my mistake. The caps on the teeth, I should say, the
Yes.
tooth material. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I said
Okay,
yes.
thank you, Doctor. Then you indicated that, quote, the blast-like effect of the gun discharging in the mouth hurled the fragments of the dental caps across a foyer and onto a staircase. Can you explain what you were talking about when you indicated that?
Essentially, when you fire the weapon, you produce high pressure coming out, greater than 5,000 pounds per square inch. The expanding turbulent gases pushed backward and stripped the caps from the teeth, fragmented them, and ejected them across the room.
Is it your testimony, Doctor, the muzzle flip? Do you know what I mean when I use the term muzzle flip?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it your testimony, Doctor, that the muzzle flip of the gun did not cause those teeth to become, or that tooth material to become fragmented and ejected across the room?
Yes, sir. That is my sole testimony.
Your testimony is that it was in fact the gases that
Hit
caused,
the caps, right?
I'm sorry, yeah, the gases, to lack of a better word, use your phrase, hit the caps and knock those caps backward.
Yes, sir.
All right. And that's based on the muzzle pressures that you found to exist in a .38 Colt Cobra.
Yes, sir.
All right. You're aware that there was in fact dental material found on the rear ramp of the front sight.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
I'm sorry.
That's bad dental material, natural, unnatural.
Well, just the dental material, I think the important thing is that it was found on the site for the purpose of the question. If I'm wrong, then perhaps we'll need some further clarification. Are you aware of that, Doctor?
Yes, it's actually tooth material, not caps, that were found on the gun.
And of course, it's conceivable that if in fact the muzzle were to flip backward based on the recoil of the gun, that muzzle could knock off the caps and impact the underlying dental material or dentin into that rear ramp of the front sight, correct?
No.
That's not possible.
No, but let me explain. If the gun had gone back and hit the teeth while the caps were on, then you would have gotten cap material embedded in the gun. And instead you got tooth material. And the reason you got the tooth material was by the time the front sight got to the front teeth, the caps were gone.
Of course, you're saying that based on that testimony, I'll get to a little more of this in just a second, but since you brought it up, I might as well address a little bit of it now. You're saying that the recoil of the gun was subsequent to the gases expanding in her mouth and knocking the dental material out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware of the basic precept of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when the hammer falls and strikes that primer, and the primer begins to burn, That primer then ignites the propellant in the ammunition, correct?
Yes.
And that bullet begins to travel because of pressure buildup in the cylinder and then subsequent pressure buildup in the barrel.
Yes.
Begins to send that projectile or that missile down the barrel and then on downrange, correct?
Yes.
And that's, from a layperson, that's a basic representation of how a bullet is fired, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet begins to move when
Yes.
the gases are building up behind it and those gases send it out, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet is out of the gun before the gases are out of the gun.
Yes, sir.
The bullet has
Not quite. It doesn't work that way.
Fine.
Actually, what happens is a certain percentage, maybe a quarter to a third of the gases exit before the bullet.
Okay, assuming even that.
Yes.
The majority of the gases are actually propelling the bullet downrange, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the bullet begins to move. In other words, there's an action that begins
Yes.
inside the cylinder and down the barrel, correct?
Yes, sir.
And meanwhile, the gases have not escaped the gun.
That's correct, sir.
You indicated that the horizontal or upward orientation of the gun was of, quote, absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides. Is that correct?
No, I said that in most instances, the gun is pointed upward in suicides, but you also get suicides where it's horizontal. And so, this is one of these things that's not really important. Most times it's pointing upward. Occasionally it's horizontal. There's no significance.
All right. My question is, did you say the horizontal, well, quote, whether the gun was oriented in a horizontal or upward plane when discharged is of absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides?
That's what I just said a second ago.
All right. Actually, you corrected me and said that's not what you said. I'm asking you, is that your direct quote?
Sustain, just,
Sure. Is that what I just read, a direct quote from your report?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you're aware that that sort of orientation, front to back, the kind of orientation that we have here, is also seen in homicides.
No. We're talking something about different. I was talking about the upward angle.
I'm aware of that.
Right.
I'm asking you, it's also seen in homicides, correct?
Sure, it's seen in homicide.
All right. Yet in your report, you ended that sentence by saying it's of absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in suicides, correct?
That's right.
And the second half of that postulate would be both such orientations are seen in homicides as well, correct?
Yes, sir, but that's understood. Since I said it's of no significance, I said it doesn't make any difference in deciding whether it's a homicide or suicide, whether it's pointed upward or pointed backwards. So I said, you don't have to consider that. That's what I said.
Why didn't you write that it's of absolutely no significance, as both such orientations are seen in homicides?
Because I didn't know you were going to ask me this question. The reason I wrote it that way is it's obvious. If you say a thing is not significant, then that's it. Then you close the door on it. Forget about it. And what I'm saying is whether it's horizontal or upward, it's of no significance into suicides because it can occur, which means that I'm not even going to consider it. And I didn't consider it. It's of no significance.
All right. And you could have written, Dr. DeMaio, that it's of no significance because that sort of orientation is seen in both homicides and suicides. But you didn't write that, did you?
No, because it wouldn't make any difference. If I wrote homicides, it's the same. I'd say the same. What I'm saying, it's of no significance. It's of no significance in homicides either. So if it's no significance in suicides, it's not going to be a significance in homicides.
So another way of saying that, Dr. DeMaio, if I hear your testimony correctly, is this sort of orientation, the front to back, and the orientation that you described.
No, not the front to back, the upward trajectory.
I'm sorry, I wasn't finished. The front to back, slightly upward, basically midline. Is that close?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Found in the exhibit, the head exhibit that you were shown by Mr. Plord, that is consistent with the trajectory in a homicide, correct?
Sure.
Okay. You also said that anyone shooting Lana Clarkson would have to have been directly in front of her. based on the front to back trajectory of the wound, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Describe that for me.
You have to have the hand in front.
Okay.
Because here's the mouth, it's got to be that oriented.
Okay. So according to your testimony, the shooter would have to be standing directly, basically straddling directly in front of Ms. Clarkson to have fired the weapon. Is that what you're saying?
This state's testimony.
And he then added, I think you made your objection before he added, is that your testimony? So the objection is overruled.
Is that what you're saying, Dr.
No, that's not my testimony.
Okay, what is your testimony?
That the person, that if she was shot by someone, the person would have to be in front of her. That's not straddling.
Okay, did you write in your report, anyone shooting Lana Clarkson would have to have been directly in front of her,
Right.
based on the front to back trajectory of the
You
wound?
have to be directly in front.
What do you mean by directly in front of her?
Do you want me to demonstrate?
Sure.
Sit down.
Are you going to demonstrate on me?
First, I need, are you armed?
That's the first best question.
Sit down. The thing is we know that the gun is here. And the person is in front of her. Now, if you look, turn this way, it's still in front of her. This way, in front of her. This way, you're still in front. You're not to the side or from the back. It's in front of us. I mean, I didn't say directly in front. It's in front. I mean, the shot has to come from the front.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. And let me get back to your report.
Now, you're all right now, aren't you?
You could be to the side. He was standing to the side. That side is not front. Side is not front. Are you kidding me?
Don't be suspicious. No, don't be suspicious. 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 Don't be suspicious.
John Ralphio?
Side is not front. Side is not front.
Can I have just a second, Your Honor?
You may.
Dr. DeMaio, if you would turn to page 2 of your report,
Yes, sir.
and be patient with me for just a second. I'm going to try to find the exact words. If you look at the third full paragraph, beginning the second sentence, would you please read that second sentence beginning with anyone?
Anyone shooting her would
If Madam was here, she'd be like, quit touching my future ex-boyfriend's face.
have to have been directly in front of her based on the front to back trajectory of the wound. Thus, one would expect copious
That's
amounts.
the only thing I'm asking.
Okay.
Did you in fact indicate in your report that the shooter would have to be directly in front of Ms. Clarkson?
Right.
Okay. And you just demonstrated to us, the jurors, that that is in fact not true. The shooter could have been to the left, to the right, further to the right,
But
depending upon the orientation of Ms. Clarkson's head.
But that's in front of her.
Okay, but not directly in front of her, Dr. DeMaio.
To me, it's directly in front of her.
Okay, so using Mr. Dixon, sorry, using Mr. Dixon as an example, using Mr. Dixon as an example, Dr. DeMaio, you would agree that, for instance, if you would mind, Mr. Dixon, could you turn your chair to the right just a little bit, to your left, rather? If, in fact, I was standing here and pointing this way, this would be considered directly in front of her, as you see, as you define
The
directly.
head would have to be facing you,
I
right?
understand. If his head is facing
And
slightly this way.
I'm using the head as the orientation.
Okay, And therefore, based on this orientation, this would be consistent with your findings.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dixon. May the record reflect that I don't know how to describe that.
You were offset from Mr. Dixon.
To his right.
Correct.
Thank you. You read Dr. Harold's report or reports in notes indicating that in her expert opinion, based on her forensic examination of the evidence, of all of the evidence that she looked at, that in her opinion, the head of Lana Clarkson was off center, slightly to the right. You read that, correct?
It misstates your report.
I don't have the report in front of me. I can't tell
It
you.
doesn't misstate her testimony. She testified to that.
Okay.
The question was the report. There's nothing in the report that says.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Testify to that.
Mr. Plord is correct. Mr. Plord is correct. Let me rephrase that. My mistake, Dr. DeMaio. It's been a long time. Taking her testimony into consideration, are you aware that she testified that in her expert opinion, Lana Clarkson's head would have been, instead of being midline, would have been slightly offset to the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You're aware of that. All I'm doing is
Okay, I'm aware of it now.
foundation.
Okay, right.
Okay. And you indicated on direct examination when Mr. Plord was going over the trajectory in that head, that prosthetic head that we've seen, you agreed, as a matter of fact, I think Mr. Plord asked you, and you agreed that the head could have been in any number of positions because it's the bullet to the skull relationship that you as a medical examiner are interested in, not the head to body relationship.
We can't, right, you cannot determine the head to body relationship.
Okay.
So, right.
And in fact, you're aware that the blood on the chair, you examined the photographs of the chair.
Yes, sir.
You examined the photographs of the purse.
Yes, sir.
You examined photographs, or may have even examined the actual slip dress that Ms. Clarkson was wearing.
I saw it, yes, sir.
You examined the jacket, Ms. Clarkson's jacket.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you saw photos of how Ms. Clarkson was situated in that chair when she was found dead.
Yes, sir.
All right. You're aware that the blood on the chair was on the right side, not the left?
Right, when that was the draining blood that went down.
The draining blood.
Right.
There was no major blood stains on the left side of the chair.
Right.
And in fact, there was no blood spatter found on the left side of the chair, correct?
Right.
Okay. There was blood spatter that was indeed found on the right side of the chair.
Yeah.
And on the back of this is always hard to describe, Dr. DeMaio, bear with me, the back of the arm of the chair. The
Yes.
top portion of the chair that's vertical.
Yes, but wasn't there also secondary blood spatter in that area, so that may not have been primary?
It may have been, correct. It may have been secondary. There was also some primary blood spatter found in that area, correct? It was not satellite.
It was interpreted as primary, yes, sir.
According to Dr. Lynn Harold's testimony.
Yes, sir.
All right. And none of that was on the left side.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, the handbag or the purse that was on her shoulder had blood spatter on it as well that was not the subject, or not the product, rather, of satellite spatter, but was interpreted as high velocity impact spatter,
Yes,
correct? And of course, there was tooth material that was found on her abdomen, correct?
Yeah, on the front of a body, yes.
Right. And on that abdomen, on that the slip dress, that was to the right of center, sitting on her abdomen area, about where I'm pointing right now, which is about mid-abdomen area to the right side of my midline, a couple of inches, correct?
Yes, sir.
Moving on to the next paragraph in your report. And I think you may have echoed this in your testimony, Dr. DeMaio.
Overrule it this time. I haven't. Just overrule. You may proceed.
You indicated that one would expect copious amounts of blood, tissue, and tooth fragments to have been deposited on the shooter.
Yes, sir.
This was not the case in regard to Mr. Spector's jacket, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've already indicated, and I think I asked you, well, let me ask it this way. You're basing that opinion on the fact that given what you described as this explosion in the mouth, that you would expect to find more blood on his jacket than was found if he were the shooter, correct?
You would expect to find blood, tissue, gunshot residue, and also on the sleeve. Yes, sir.
All right. And you're aware of who Paul Kish is?
He's the criminalist who, with Dr. Lee, was at the scene
Okay.
and examined it.
All
Right.
right. Or at least that's your understanding.
That's my understanding.
And he's matter of fact, hired by the defense team in this case.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's why that's from the report.
All right. Are you aware that he published an article entitled "The Absence of Evidence is Not Evidence of Absence"? And that was in 1996 in the Journal of Forensic Identification.
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true that, according to Dr. Kish, or Mr. Kish, expert opinions should never be based on what one would expect to be present, but rather they should be based on what is physically present? Isn't that true?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That is again, I'll use the word, a hallmark in expert. All right. You did, in fact, look at different areas of Lana Clarkson's jacket, her
Yes.
right samplings from her right shoulder, her left shoulder, correct?
Yes.
And you also looked at some samplings of her buttons.
Yes.
I want to talk for just a second before we get to all of those things and your determinations based on those. I want to go back to your direct examination about the gases in the mouth.
Yes.
Now, you've indicated that there was this, and I think yesterday you said an explosion, and you did your hands out like this, correct?
Yes, sir.
An explosion of blood and tissue and metallic particles and GSR and everything else coming out of the mouth when that gas expanded in the mouth, correct?
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, you described it as like a jet engine, correct?
I don't remember, but I'll accept that.
You said it's like dropping an SUV in someone's mouth.
No, that was in reference to when I was talking about this 5,000 pounds per square inch.
Right, and that's what I'm asking you.
Yes.
With regard to the gases, you've indicated to this jury that the gases inside Lana Clarkson's mouth were some 5,080 pounds per square inch, correct?
Well, actually greater, but
Greater than 5,080.
yes, sir.
All right. And when in doing so, you referred to muzzle pressure
Right.
and studies that have been done about muzzle pressure.
Yes, sir.
What is muzzle pressure, doctor?
Okay. It's not muzzle pressure per se. It is the pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle. The pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle is, with the ordinary 38 special 2-inch barrel, about 5,080 pounds per square inch.
Okay. So your testimony, if this pen represents the barrel of the gun
Yes, sir.
and this eraser is the muzzle end,
Right.
your testimony is that the muzzle pressure is the pressure here, where my fist is, outside the barrel of the gun.
And that's the pressure of the gas coming out the muzzle.
Right? If my fist represents gas coming out of the muzzle, all right? That's the best I can do, Doc.
Well, it wouldn't be
You're
that, okay, it wouldn't be that far out. As soon as the gas begins to come out of the muzzle, it then begins to expand, and then, of course, the pressure drops down.
Drastically drops, doesn't it?
Well, of course, it's going to drastically drop down.
Have you now finished your answer? Or do you want to add?
I'm finished now, Your Honor.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you know what Boyle's law is.
I'm a little far out of physics, but essentially you're talking about expansion of gases.
Okay. Let me see if I can get it right. Pressure times volume equals a constant.
Right. And what's happened is when the gas comes out, it begins to expand as it tends to depress. And by doing that, it ejects material out the nose and mouth.
Right. All right. That's your testimony.
Yes.
We'll get to that in just a second. I'm still talking about muzzle pressure and this 5,000 or 5,000 plus PSI that you're
Right.
talking about. When firearms manufacturers perform muzzle pressure tests, they are specifically doing so in determination of what kind of steel, the alloys, and the shape of that a barrel should take to withstand the high pressures inside the muzzle, inside the barrel, correct?
You're wrong. Sorry about that.
Isn't it true? Oh, no, you don't have to be sorry.
No.
Isn't it true, doctor, that in fact, muzzle pressure, as soon as...
Put this man in the
Had
explanation.
you finished your answer?
No, I hadn't finished.
All right, go ahead and finish your answer.
What the manufacturers specify and measure is the pressure in the chamber. And so they drill a hole in the chamber, and then they put a sensor device, and then you fire the ammunition, and that tells you chamber pressure. They don't measure muzzle pressure because they're not interested in that, because by the pressure in the chamber maybe like is much higher, 15 to 20,000 pounds per square inch. And so by the time it gets to the muzzle, it's already dropped to 5,000. Manufacturers have their specifications for chamber pressure.
There's also specific calculations for muzzle pressure, isn't there, doctor?
I've never heard anyone talk about it, only chamber pressure.
Would it surprise you to know that muzzle pressure is defined by a formula taking into account chamber volume, chamber pressure, and barrel volume,
Right.
which will give you muzzle pressure.
Right.
And it's the pressure inside this tiny little orifice or this tiny little cylinder called a barrel. That's the high pressure, correct?
Yeah, the high pressure is in the chamber. That's what the manufacturer does for specifications, because that's when the highest pressure is. Once the bullet begins to move down the barrel, the pressure decreases rapidly from around 15 to 20,000 to about 5,000 if it's a 2-inch barrel, and if it's a 4-inch barrel, it's dropping down to 2,000. The manufacturer is principally interested in the pressure in the chamber, and that's what he uses to draw specifications up when he constructs his load.
Shouldn't the pressure in the barrel be higher because it's a smaller diameter? Doesn't a smaller diameter make a pressure go higher? Just like when your blood vessels are constricted, the pressure in them is higher. I don't know.
Of powder in a cartridge.
All right, doctor, if I get this correct, if I get your testimony correctly, you've got the chamber of the gun, which is relatively small. The cartridge is loaded, correct?
Yes, sir.
Ready to be fired.
Yes, sir.
And that chamber pressure can get exceedingly high, at 15 to 20,000 PSI, correct?
For 38 special, yes.
As soon as that gas goes into the barrel is a lot larger in volume. In fact, therefore pressure immediately decreases based on Boyle's law.
Yes, sir.
The volume increases, the pressure goes down, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And as soon as that gas leaves the barrel, and we're talking about ambient barometric pressure now, basically atmospheric pressure, as soon as that gas leaves the barrel, once again, boom, the pressure drops.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You indicated on direct examination that you looked at some photographs of Ms. Clarkson's tongue, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, you were talking about this 5,000 PSI, but in reality, that is a misstatement, because there was not 5,000 plus PSI in her mouth. There was 5,000 PSI in the barrel of the weapon.
No, sir. It was 5,000 as it exits the muzzle.
And as soon
Actually, as the farther back you go in the barrel, the higher the pressure.
as it comes out,
Doctor didn't allow the witness to finish.
Okay, you still got more to go on your answer?
No.
thank you, Your Honor, may I? As soon as the gas comes out of the barrel, that pressure has dropped. So in fact, in the volume of her head space, we're not talking about 5,000 PSI. That pressure has radically dropped. and the gases have expanded.
Yes, but it's still destructive because using your contention then, if you shoot somebody in the head with a 12-gauge shotgun, then I'm imagining the brain being all over the ceiling, the brain being all over the walls, and the brain being on the floor. Your head is not designed for 5,000 or 4,000 or 3,000 or 2,000. If so, I'll drop a 1,000-pound weight on your toe, and I bet your toe's going to be in a little bad condition.
That's a great point, Dr. DeMaio. If there were 5,000 people, if there was 5,000 plus pounds of pressure in her head would have been pulverized. It would have blown completely apart.
Actually, no. What would happen it would have blown out. What happens is when you have intraoral wounds like that, what usually happens is you get tears radiating from the corners of the mouth, the eyes, and then the cheeks may split. That's what usually happens.
Did you see photographs of Miss Clarkson's mouth, eyes, lips, inner oral mucosa, etc.?
Yes.
Were her lips split apart?
No, because you said that was a different question you asked.
All I'm asking is, I'm asking a different question now. Were her lips split apart?
No, sir.
Were her nostrils split apart?
No, sir.
Were her eyes bulging?
No.
Did you see tears on the inside of her cheeks?
She had some lacerations on the inside. Okay, no, sir.
All right. You indicated that the tongue that was bruised on the left side.
Yes, sir.
I think in your direct testimony you said you didn't like to use this word often, but you did it. It was impossible for the muzzle of the gun, the end of the barrel of the gun, to have caused that bruise, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you ever bitten your tongue, Doc?
That's different. When you bite your tongue, you're putting the pressure down on a sharp edge. That's how you eat. There's a difference between that. But even if you have bitten your tongue, and I'm sure you have, you don't get a bruise, a big bruise on your tongue. What you're doing with your biting is you're cutting it with your teeth. This is a blunt force injury. Blunt force injuries are not cutting or biting injuries.
So you do agree that, in fact, this was a blunt force trauma?
This is a blunt force trauma due to the gas expanding, fracturing the upper palate, and jamming the tongue against the skeletal structure.
The gas that we've now learned is not at 5,000 PSI, correct?
It's 5,000 pounds per square inch when it exits the barrel.
Right.
Everybody knows that gas expands because all you had to do was look at the photograph of the gun being fired, and you notice how that gas cloud was a foot in diameter in atmosphere, where there was no restriction.
But doctor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, never mind.
To suggest to this jury that the pressure in her mouth, in the volume of her head space, was 5,000 PSI, that is incorrect if we're trying to get very accurate about this, correct?
No, actually, it is correct. It's 5,000 pounds when it exits the barrel.
And what is the exact pressure inside Miss Clarkson's mouth?
Objection made to where?
Overruled. You may ask.
The question is impossible to answer because the only way to find this would be to stick guns in people's mouths, put pressure gauges, and then shoot them. And for somehow, I don't think your office would appreciate people being killed this way.
So to answer the question, Dr. DeMaio, to use your words, it is impossible to answer what the pressure inside her mouth was because you don't know the volume of her mouth, which under Boyle's law dictates the pressure, correct?
It's not that simple, even with your, if you knew the volume. Because what's happening is, as the gas begins to expand, it will also begin to expand, rushing out the nostrils and the mouth. So what will happen is you'll get 5,000, and then it'll begin to drop. And it'll drop not only because of expansion, but because the gas is going out the nostril and mouth. And so so the only way you could ever do measurements like that would be to literally shoot people in the mouth.
And saving that experiment, let's assume we're not going to do that experiment. I don't think we'll get away with it. You can't testify to what the pressure in her mouth was once the gas left the barrel. Correct?
That's correct.
Thank you,
But
Doctor.
from doing autopsies, one knows that that pressure produces severe injuries and produces fractures.
I want to talk a little bit about what you said you expected to find on Mr. Spector's jacket. You've already said that you are not a backspatter expert, correct?
No, I said that I was only interested in backspatter coming from the body and going out, not calculating angles and things like that.
Can you tell me what Stokes' law is, please?
No, I can't.
Have any idea what it is?
No.
So you would have no idea how Stokes' law acts. And
Well, why
assume
don't you
for purposes of my question that it's a law of physics, all right?
Okay, I'm sure you'll tell it to me.
George Stokes, 1852.
That's nice. Go ahead.
The law of physics that dictates how fluid travels through a viscous material like, for instance.
Okay.
That sound familiar?
Vaguely, it sounds like second-year physics in college.
High school, actually. But that's been a while. Do you have any idea how Stokes' law plays into high velocity backspatter as as blood, for instance, and let's use high velocity blood, as it is applied, as a high energy force is applied to it? Can you tell me how that
No,
plays into it?
blood is a particle. If you deliver kinetic energy to it and deliver velocity, it's going to move. It's going to move whether it's a motor vehicle or it's going to droplet of blood.
Do you have any idea what the phrase terminal velocity means?
Yeah, it's the final velocity when the bullet impacts.
I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. It can have different meanings. In physics, terminal velocity. Do you know what it means? Not in ballistics.
I would assume it's the same thing, but just not applying in a more general way.
Okay. Would it sound correct to you if I told you that terminal velocity is the maximum speed under the laws of physics that an item can reach based on gravity in the world that we live in? The maximum speed. Does that sound right?
That would sound about right.
All right. Does it sound right? And does this remind you of either your college days or high school days if I told you that Stokes' law is basically a surface area to mass ratio? And it's defined by a coefficient of drag. Doctor, let me finish. You'll get a chance. How far an item can travel through air based on that coefficient of drag, based on its surface area to mass ratio, and the effects of gravity. Does any of that sound familiar?
It doesn't, but what sounds familiar, when I did my experiments and put a gun against a person's head and pulled the trigger, I got my face, my glasses, and my upper part were covered by material that was ejected from the body. Now, the body probably didn't know Stokes' law, but it knows that when you have a contact wound and the gas goes into the body, it blows stuff back on you. And it blew in my face, it blew on my glasses, and it blew on, luckily, the gown, in which case I had to go and take a shower to get the pieces of the body off me. So I don't know the scientific law, but I know what happens when you put a gun against the head and you pull a trigger.
And of course, you're talking about a lot of particulate matter. I don't think anybody's taken issue, doctor, with the idea that tissue and materials can fly backward. All right.
And blood too.
All right.
Because again, I don't know the law, but I've gone to scenes where people have put shotguns like in their head, covered every wall surface with brain. I've seen people put guns in their mouth, 357 magnums, and blown part of the head off. And yes, I don't know the law, but I know what the effects of putting a gun in your mouth are. And I've seen the effects hundreds of times. And you don't have to know the law to know when the blood comes back and sprays all over you and kills you.
What size blood are you talking about, doctor?
You can have both macro and micro particles if you use the German criteria.
What is the farthest distance, according to your expert opinion, what is the furthest distance that sub-millimeter sized particulate matter, blood, can travel?
What size particles?
Sub-millimeter. From 0.9 to 0.1.
We know that with animal experiments, these particles can travel for 4 feet, with cases of it going up to 2.5 millimeters, which is roughly 7 feet.
You mean 2.5 meters?
Oh, did I say? Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
said millimeters.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that would equal about 7 feet. Then we know with a 22, it can go 6 feet.
You're saying that sub-millimeter particles
Yes.
can travel 6 feet through the air.
Yes.
All right. Are you aware of studies and publications in the scientific community, some done by your colleagues on this case, Stuart James, Paul Kish, Henry Lee, all of whom have stated, specifically Dr. DeMaio, that sub-millimeter sized particles, or what's considered mist-like particles, based on Stokes' law, can travel a maximum of about 2 to 3 feet, and in some laboratory conditions, theoretically, about 4 feet. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that they have, but it doesn't mean anything because when you shoot living animals, when people, this is what you get. These are the results. They were not shooting living animals, and these other distances in 6 or 7 are people. So this is not a theoretical practical thing. This is not a theoretical thing, shooting sponges. This is shooting living animals and shooting people. And the blood goes that far.
So if the blood knows that it came from a sponge, it will travel one distance. But if the blood knows that it came from a live person, for instance, it'll travel a different distance based on physics.
Well, overruled. Sponges are not built like people. Sponges do not have blood pressure. Sponges do not have a resistance. Sponges do not have the characteristics of skin or tissue or bone. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what a sponge does. It's what a person does. And these are scientific experiments done on living creatures. It overrules the sponge. Sorry about that.
And it overruled. Oh, you don't have to apologize to me. You might want to apologize to George Boyle. I'm sorry, George Stokes. Let me ask you a question, Dr. Mile. You said that sponges don't have blood pressure. So now are we to believe that your testimony is that it's the blood pressure that makes blood travel further?
No. It's not the blood pressure, but the blood is in blood vessels. Look, a sponge is not a person. You can shoot sponges until the cows come home. What you have to do is you have to shoot this research done in Germany is on living creatures. And what it found was that and what it states is the sponge results are not valid. And they have observations also on living people showing it's not valid. And if you go to scenes and you start doing your measurements, you will find out that blood does go farther. People are not sponges. Sponges are not people. The sponge experiments are nice for demonstrating and teaching the principles, but they are not real.
You're aware, Dr. DeMaio, that in that study, when Karger et al. Indicated that backspatter from a suicide victim went 6 feet, they indicated exactly that. Backspatter in total, not mist-like spatter. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes, but you're not talking about mist-like spatter in this case.
All I'm asking you is whether you're aware that in Karger, and those findings in that one single paper that you're relying on, indicated that backspatter could go goes 6 feet, correct? Not indicating the size of it. You're aware of that.
That's correct.
All right.
I'm going to finish.
Let him finish his answer.
And you're talking about Dr. Cargo, who's an MD, and his institute. It's the only person to do valid experiments. And just because it's one experiment, and just because you don't like the results, it's still a valid experiment. And the other things, shooting sponges, are not. Unless you're trying someone for murdering a sponge, these are the valid.
So
Not
after thousands upon thousands of pages of articles dedicated to applying Stokes' law to submillimeter particulate matter in backspatter cases, after experiment after experiment after experiment, after your colleagues, not just any colleagues, but people with PhDs who spend their life studying these laws that you don't even know, doctor, you're saying that all of that is invalidated by a German guy who shot a cow in the temple.
Yes, because he did valid experiments published in international journals, reviewed. So, I know you don't like the results.
I didn't say I didn't like the results, doctor.
These results overrule that. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
It's like
testimony.
the scientists all thought the world was flat. Then Columbus comes around and finds out it isn't. You mean we should disregard that and keep the world flat because there was only one Italian guy sailing for the Spanish queen? No, these are the valid. It goes further. If you go to scenes, which, by the way, your criminalist admitted that she didn't go to scenes of suicides and saw this blood back.
I'm hoping, doctor, that you have begun the process of publishing widely to the scientific community that you, in fact, Dr. DeMaio, have found the holy grail of backspatter, and that you and Dr. Carver are
Sustained to the form of the question.
Have you let any of your friends and colleagues know that they've been wrong this whole time?
It's in my book, if they bother. Look, if you don't like it, this is not hard to find. All you do is you get on the computer, you get into a medical library, top backspatter, and within 30 seconds, you will get all these articles. It's not really hard. And, if they haven't got them, I don't know what to say, but these are the only valid research experiments. That's it.
You're certainly not suggesting to these jurors, you were looking at the jurors, you're not suggesting that they should go on the internet and do any research.
Oh, no.
Yeah, good.
They're not supposed to be doing it, hopefully.
They just are here to rely on your testimony, at least in part, correct?
Well, you could enter these into the records and distribute them to the jurors.
Well, actually, that's up for the judge. That's up for the judge to decide what's distributed to the jurors. All I'm asking you is, you're relying on Carger and only Carger, because that in your mind is the only valid experiment, correct?
It's not only.
This state's testimony.
He's going to answer that. The objection's overruled.
It's not only in my mind. These studies were published in 2 peer-reviewed medical journals. There have been no opposition to them, and some of the quotes they have go back to the 19th century. They're all in German, unfortunately, but they do. And these were done at institutes. Let's say. These were done at recognized institutes in Germany, and this is the leading edge of science in this field.
When was that published?
The first article was published in 1996. The second article in 1997. And the last article in 2002.
And you're aware that a lot of the other articles from your colleagues, et cetera, and books that are published have post-dated that Carter paper, correct?
I know, that's nice, but the problem basically is that to recreate is that if you want to challenge these papers, you're going to have to recreate the experimental situations, and you're going to have to shoot living things. And television aside, and CIAS or whatever, there is still money to do research because most politicians don't care about forensic pathology. And the other thing is if you try to do these experiments in the United States, you'd run into big problems in medical schools because you have to keep once you purchase the animals, you have to keep them in special areas, cages. You have to have veterinarians.
Objection, Your Honor. This is non-responsive.
Sustained. It's getting way too far. It's becoming a narrative.
Thank you. And the final period at the end of this sentence, Dr. DeMaio, is that when they shot the calves, they found the high-velocity backspatter. In other words, the missing-sized spatter traveled a maximum of 4 feet, correct?
I have no way of knowing. I do not have to study. He's asking, is that correct?
They found right with the cattle, and then they said if the gas effect, the traveling distance would have been greater if the gas effect had been as strong as in men, because of anatomical differences in the cattle. In the cattle, the gunshot wounds did not split the skin, which they would have in man, and open the wound up bigger. In addition, in the cattle, there's a couple of an inch or two of soft tissue underneath, which would have absorbed the gas. So they said that this effect is good for cattle, but for man, it would be even further. And that's when they mentioned the case from Wyman in 1931, where it went 2.5 meters, and their experience when it went 2 meters.
And you're saying it not being high-velocity backspatter, not being mist-like spatter, but just backspatter in general, correct?
Backspatter in general.
Thank you, Doctor. You indicated that in regard to the ejection of blood, in one of the documented discussions in the coroner's file, mention was made of the absence of backspatter on the hands of Lana Clarkson. Do you remember that?
No, the press. You're on page 2?
Page 2, the fourth full paragraph, beginning at the top.
Okay, in regard to the ejection of blood.
Just read it to yourself, Doctor, if you would
yes.
mind. All right. So you know where I'm at, yes?
Right.
All right. You indicated that in regard to the ejection of blood, in one of the documented discussions in the coroner's file, mention was made of the absence of backspatter on the hands of Ms. Clarkson, correct?
Right.
And then you go on to say that you, in fact, did believe that there was backspatter, correct?
It's described by Jamie Wintmuth, and it's visible on that, the jury saw the photograph.
Yes or no?
Yes.
You went on to describe that there was a backspatter that you saw.
Yes.
All right. And you said, as to the subject of backspatter in general, absence of backspatter is not significant, only its presence.
That's correct.
But Doctor, that's what my question is. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking about Mr. Spector's jacket, and you said the absence of backspatter was significant.
It's one of the factors that you consider, the absence, and as you pointed out, you have to consider both. In fact, you did say before, you said you should consider both negative and positive. And the thing is that she has backspatter and he doesn't have it on his head. He didn't have it on his coat. So you have to weigh whether it's significant or not.
Did you say he didn't have it on his coat?
he did not have it on his sleeve, excuse me. And he had about 15 fairly large, non-mist-like spots on his left front.
You're sure about the sleeves?
I think he had one on the something on the edge, one blood spot on the edge.
And
But
nothing
he
else
didn't
on the
have on the
sleeves?
sleeves. No, he did not.
Nothing else?
No.
You're sure about that?
Yes.
On that note, we have arrived at the time to take our recess. Ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind the admonition. We will resume at 9:30. Thank you, doctor. Return at 9:30 tomorrow.
Okay, guys. We got more Mr. Eyebrows for tomorrow. And now, Judy, I will never let this guy investigate your death. I promise. And now we are going to portal over to Karen Reed. If you're not joining us for Karen Reed, I will see you again in the morning. If you are, make sure you are buckled up and you have your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times so you safely make it over to Karen Reed. And I will see you over there. Thank you to my wonderful mod, Judy, and thank you guys for coming out. And I